The familiar falsetto of Tom York and Jonny Greenwood's bass guitar are unmistakable. It is arguably Radiohead, but not as you know it. It's The Smile, the trio the two of them make up with drummer Tom Skinner. The band's latest album, Wall of Eyes, is out this week. Over just 8 songs, the album is a musical journey. It's twisting and turning and sometimes overwhelming for the listener. The influence of Radiohead, but also Jonny Greenwood's work as a film composer, are all over the album. When I spoke to Jonny Greenwood, I asked where the desire to keep making music with Tom York, if not necessarily under the Radiohead banner, comes from.
It just comes from writing music all the time and having a hunger to write songs with Tom. So it's just been a process that's gone on since lockdown or just before. Yeah, it's just hard to stop when this is what you've done since you were, 14, 15 and all you've really thought about. So it carries on. We're lucky that it does. Tom always compares it to having a studio full of canvases that are all half finished or some have just started, and you rotate and you keep working and keep moving. And it does feel very much like that.
It sounds like it's a very happy, professional, artistic marriage.
I think we just have an endless hunger to do the next thing and do the new thing. There's always new ideas or new technology to be excited about. And yeah, we're lucky. We've had a long run and it still feels like we're the same awkward, obnoxious teenagers we were 30 years ago.
You talk about Tom. There is, of course, another Tom involved now, Tom Skinner. Tell me about the addition of Tom Skinner. What does that bring?
The rehearsals are exactly as confusing as you might imagine. But apart from that, it's just full of enthusiasm and it's addictive to play with him. He makes us sound good, is what I'm really saying, I suppose. Play along with him and he certainly totally elevates what we do, and also it's very musical when we're just discussing the songs and planning things. So it's been a really happy few years. It's really interesting being in a trio, just because small changes can make a very big difference to the arrangement of songs, and everyone is quite exposed, and it's just a different discipline, really, I guess.
Coming to the record, it starts with, well, it felt like a Latin rhythm to me. The words and the music kind of chase against one another and throughout the album. Tell me about the relationship between those two, the music and the words.
I think we think of records in terms of arranging. Like, that's a huge part of what we do. And you just respond to arrangements of songs that resonate with the words, I suppose. That sounds like a banal thing to say, but that's how it feels. And it's always been about arrangements. There's that great scene in the Buddy Holly biopic where Buddy Holly arrives and just says, I don't need a producer to do the arrangements, I'll do them. Mm-hmm. And we're in a way quite nostalgic for the times when you did have to think about arrangements as a bit like a producer. And that's how we arranged the songs, I think.
I want to come to another one of the songs, Under Our Pillow. It begins with a riff, like a lot of the songs, and builds to become just melodically, rhythmically, incredibly complex. It feels that, well, you've used the word, their constructions, their arrangements, they're almost architectural. I worry about asking the question because I can tell already that you don't like examining it. But could you explain to us how you go out making something that is so complex?
It doesn't feel complex. I think we were schooled by bands like the Pixies and learned that as long as you keep the songs under 4-5 minutes, then it's just about working out what you can do within that framework. And the Pixies were obsessed about not being boring, and lots of their songs avoid repetitions of 4 or avoid being too predictable. It's strange. It's a kind of balance you have to get right between successive ideas being satisfying or interesting, but not just surprising and alarming for the sake of it. It's like you can't just do jump scares in music and hope that's going to keep people interested in what you're doing. It's a strange balance between keeping things satisfying and keeping them feeling like you're trying to do something new.
Let's talk about Bending Hectic. It's about a car crash. It's perhaps about a narrow escape. The ground is coming for me now. We've gone over the edge. If you've got something to say, say now. That jump scare, it feels like that happens, particularly in Bending Hectic, where we spend 5 minutes in one particular world and then you seem to take us somewhere else. Musically, tell us about shifting between states in the space of one song.
I mean, lots of these ideas are just quite unconsidered. And that's certainly one of the songs where we just followed where the music led us, I suppose. There was certainly no sit down of saying, right, at this point, we'll do this. Yeah, I mean, that song started as a way of wondering how far a guitar string could be bent. And it sounds, hopefully you can hear how painful it is to play.
Yeah.
And there's some enjoyable tension in hearing that, I think.
Yeah, it's incredibly dissonant towards the end. It's quite uncomfortable, isn't it?
I mean, perhaps.
So Bending Hectic, I think, is probably the closest you get to narrative. The songs flash images, we get snatches of life. How do you want us to approach the music? Do you want the audiences to seek to understand, to decipher, to just bathe in it? How do you want us to receive it?
I don't know. I feel hypocritical because I'm not sure I think about that very much. It's weird, when we started, we used to obsessively record ourselves and listen to the recordings back, but then not really play them to anyone else. We were just interested in what could be made to come out of speakers, I suppose, and just found that the big attraction and the big excitement more than anything. So it's just sort of daunting and a little off-putting to start understanding and appreciating that people are going to be listening to what you do. But then we hear lovely things, and I get messages from friends saying they're really enjoying the new record, and that's the best feeling. My friend Ian texted me yesterday and was driving and listening to it, and that means so much to me, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a strange set of contradictions, I'm afraid.
But I'll tell you, there is one thing that I know that audiences will definitely do, is that the analysis of, and I know this isn't Radiohead, but the analysis of anything that Radiohead releases is pretty extreme from fans. There's a message here, or perhaps a lyric that people will see as a message. When the end has come, maybe you can't be asked for 500,000. Are you telling Radiohead fans that the end has come with that?
No, I think we would never write songs about ourselves like that.
Right.
It's too weird. There's a long history of bands doing it, and it makes you shrivel with embarrassment sometimes when you read those lyrics. So yeah, that's not for us, I think.
Speaking of history of bands, George Harrison told, Front Row's predecessor, Kaleidoscope, that the Travelling Wilburys allowed him and Dylan and Orbison and everyone to get together in a garage and just play like when they were 17. So is The Smile your version of that?
I think that sounds like Radiohead's motivation as well, frankly.
Right.
There's nothing more exciting than being in a smallish room with a drummer and a guitar and just playing music. That's still something that is very exciting to us. So I hope it continues.